ask a question is through chat. So if you can hear me, please send me a yes in chat. Okay, we're missing a whole bunch of people who can't hear me. About half of you or more seem to not be able to hear me. So uh, you need to either check your sound card or reboot. There we go. We picked up some more people. Okay, some of you have been with us on other webinars. Um, Today we're going to go over interpreting a RecCheck report, aerials, topos, city directories, fire insurance maps. Remember, I'm not going to be able to cover every single different issue on every single different site or aerial or topo or city. I have some good examples that have a lot of things, and I'm going to kind of go over them and show you things I would get out of reviewing the RecCheck, aerials, topos, cities, fire insurance maps for this particular site, just as I would be writing a phase one environmental site assessment and we're reviewing them for that. Without having, a couple dozen different examples, there's just no way I could cover every instant or every circumstance you may come across that could be a concern or issue or that kind of thing. But this really, this will give you some ideas. Hopefully, I don't know it all, so hopefully you'll pick up something. If you pick up, something new and 10% of what I have to say, then hey, you learned something. If not, then you just verified that you're doing the right thing, hopefully. For those of you who haven't been in one of our webinars, I'll just give you a little background on me. I started in environmental in the mid 80s. I graduated from UC Davis with a resource science degree and a minor in environmental toxicology, soil science, and water science. And I went to work for an environmental firm and became one of the officers of the company, starting out doing PCB drain and flushes. And then we built the first air strippers and did a whole bunch of neat stuff in Northern California. In 1991, I started a company called Phase One Inc. to do just Phase One environmental site assessment, which was kind of unheard of back then. And we did really well. And that company's gone for about 28 years. It no longer does phase ones, but it spawned ERS about 15 years ago. And about 2 years ago, ERS, Environmental Record Search, became its own company. I've been involved in well over 10 or 20,000 phase ones in one way or another. So I have a little bit of experience, but again, like I said, I don't know it all. In addition, in the early 90s, I helped draft and review the very first standards for ASTMs for phase one. Also published a writing of how to do a phase one. And then in 2008, the director of the SBA out of Washington, D.C. called me up and asked if I'd participate in drawing up the new laws for SBA 504 and 7A loans. And I worked on that for 2.5 years with 2 other consultants and 5 attorneys. Eric Adams out of the SBA office in Sacramento, who's the head reviewer and head attorney. Anyway, we wrote laws, and now we've got what we've got for SBA lending, and one of those being the record search with risk assessment, and that's how that kind of came about. And so those laws and regulations, so you've got all appropriate inquiry, ASTM, and the SBA regulations. I'll be right back. You got the SBA regulations, and so you basically have SOP 50105J. For some reason, I can't memorize that, but you got the ASTM 1527. So right now, the ASTM standards are being redone, and we're meeting on them in Washington, D.C. In October. And I'm on several of those committees, and I hope to put in some things that make it a little clearer and consistent and make sure we all do the same thing. So it makes it more competitive for everybody. So if you have any questions as I'm giving this webinar, go ahead and send me a chat, send the question in chat. And I love answering questions. And so there is no dumb question, so ask them all. And I'll answer them the best I can. Last time we were talking about fire insurance. No, we were talking about vapor intrusion. And they asked, what are all the incidences that could cause or circumstances that could cause for you to put in a report that there's a potential for vapor intrusion? Well, first of all, I don't know that I know them all. And it'd probably take 2 or 3 hours for me to list them down and go through them, what I do know. And that was just an impossible question for me to answer. But I'll try to do my best when I can. Again, I don't know it all. So if we get a question and you don't like my answer on the question, go ahead and answer it for me, or answer it also, because everybody's input, we can all learn from each other, making our jobs easier, better, more efficient, and more accurate. So let's go ahead and get started. If there's any questions, go ahead and ask. If you got my background, I know a little bit, but not a lot. So let's see if I can help you out. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go over the RecCheck report. So the RecCheck report is basically always where I start. And it's probably, remember, the site assessment has probably already been done, or the field inspection has already been done. I've already got the questionnaires in from the client, the owner, and any of the interviews from any of the agencies, anything like that, from the field assessor, or hopefully I do. I probably preliminarily reviewed this RecCheck report, which is a radius search report, prior to the field assessor going out in the field. And so I should already have an idea, but if I don't, and I'm just a report writer and I've got all this information, I'm going to go ahead and review the RecCheck report. So the very first thing I do is I scroll down to the site location and make sure that's my address. And if I have a lat long, it's the right lat long and that kind of thing. because I don't want to spend a lot of time on a report that's just going to waste my time. So the first thing is make sure I've got the right site. Then I'm going to click this ribbon on the left, which makes it really easy to get around this report. Remember, all our reports, that includes aerial, city directories, fire insurance maps, the radius search RecCheck report, are all designed by environmental professionals to help you get around easy. And we'll keep talking about that as we go on. So our RecCheck report you get in a matter of minutes. A lot of our competitors take a lot longer than that. Some of them take even 24 hours. Not ours. Most of them you get them in a matter of minutes. We do have some basic checks in place that if some of the listings are using an agency lat long or a historical lat long that may not be accurate, we catch that report and verify some of the site addresses. It doesn't happen on every report, but we try to make sure everything's as accurate as it can possibly be. Keeping in mind, all database companies geocode based on address of the subject site. So we take that address, we find its lat long, and then we find all the lat longs within a mile, and we pull them. And then we pull all the data. All that data has been geocoded based on address, not on the supplied governmental lat long if they do supply one. Because lots of times those are really old and inaccurate, and geocoding has improved so much over the last 10 years, or even just in the last 3 years, that it's so much more accurate. Now you get on top of building geocoding accuracy and all kinds of things. And so we provide top of building geocoding when it's available. But that means that address, if that address isn't put in accurately, that data may be misplotted. There's nothing we can do about it. And I'm going to give you a little example. Anyone who says they check every single lat long geocoding of every single record, it's an impossibility. They may run logarithms and do it by computer. We touch every record by computer and make them better and normalize them, and do all kinds of things, all kinds of clever things that I can't even hardly explain that our computer guys do. But let me give you an example why you can't check every single record. The Lust records for the United States is a little over 4 million records. Just the Lust record, leaking underground storage tank. So you got 4 million records. So to check a record takes, about 10 minutes a record to check. To see if the lat long's correct, you map it out, you make sure it's right. You may even go to Google Earth Pro and go down to street level and make sure it's the right site. All that kind of stuff takes a minimum of 10 minutes each record. So at the most, one person can do 50 per day to verify lat long in records. That'd take one person 80,000 days just to do the Lust record database, or 10 persons 800 days. And if that's 800 days, it'd take 10 persons 3.1 years on a normal work year in order to check those 4 million Lust records. That's one database. We have 3,000 plus databases. Possibility, guys. So it just doesn't happen. So if anyone tells you they check every report or check every record before it goes out, don't believe it. It doesn't happen. Everybody checks it via computerization, running macros, running logarithms. We have incredible, very complex logarithms to match sites up, like sites up, and all kinds of things. And we do that just as much as everybody does. but nobody physically checks every report. We do physically check based on a random search of reports, certain things before a report goes out if it gives us a red flag for some reason. So I hope that answers some questions on accuracy for everybody. But everybody geocodes by street address. Now, the one thing we do, and everybody plots those records based on the geocode from the street address. But the one thing we do is if the street address lat long is different than the agency supplied lat long, if there was one, and about 20% of the records supply an agency lat long. That's not very many. 2 out of 10. So about 20%. If it's different by more than 50 feet, then we let you know about it. Why is that? In most cases, if it's different by 50 feet, it's usually just that the agency had a bad lat long. But in 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 cases, that may be the lat long, the agency supplied lat long, may actually be in the South 40 acres or something where the tank was, the spill was, something. Every once in a while, the agencies get it exactly right, where the underground storage tank was. Or it may be another building or shop on the next block that where the problem was, but not on the address, which is usually where the office is located. And the office could be located on a corner of a whole city block, and the spill could be on the opposite corner of that city block, and therefore you get over 50-foot difference. And so we provide those, and let me show you where we provide those under agency differences. So if you see any of these close ones next to your star, you probably want to check them out and make sure they're not your site, because they probably won't be picked up at your site, but if they have the same name. So one of the things you want to interpret really quickly is under the agency differences, did the agency lat long may prove to be some of a value for you writing your phase 1. And it's only going to be the sites that are really close to you for the most part. So in this case, we got map ID number 2. I really want to know what map ID number 2 is because it's red, right? So red, green, yellow is one of the things that is really important to know about our report and interpret our report. But I'll get back to you. But if I wanted to know what item number 2 was, I just click on map ID details and read it. We're not going to do that right now because I usually don't do agency differences. The first thing I do is I look at the executive summary. And so right now I know it's got my site address. My site is listed. So because the subject site is listed, you've got a hyperlink here that's going to take you right to the detail. And if your site's listed, it's usually map ID number 1. And it should be, because everything's figured how far distance from you. So I know my site's listed, and I'm going to click on that in a minute. But then I want to go and look down. I've got my floodplain. I've got years of fire insurance map coverage that may exist. It's not guaranteed, because if your site's in the perimeter or rural area of that city, then you're just not going to find it. And if it's a real small city, man, if you aren't square downtown in the old section of downtown, you're not going to find your site. But this tells you what years you may find your site in. And if you ordered fire insurance maps from us, then you'll know you've got some fire insurance maps. That's cool. You got total occurrence count, 301. That's a lot of listings, isn't it? It's huge. But we have a lot of information, including a lot of historical information in our reports. So right away, I realized I've got a lot of listings. I've got a pretty site. My site's listed. So do I want to go see what my site's listed for? Sure. I'm going to click right away. So my site's basically listed. I want to make sure I got the top one for historical. So it's sold some sort of recreational vehicle since at least 2010. And so I'm starting to build a picture of this site. So if I'm reviewing this stuff, I've got a notepad right beside me, and I'm already noting down what I may want to make a rec or may want to put into my phase one. So I'm going to write down, hey, this site's listed historically as recreational vehicle sales, whatever, right? So let's go down further and see if it's listed for anything else. Recreational vehicles, nothing else. It's not record, it's not listed as a small quantity generator. So maybe they don't do any kind of repair or anything there. All I got is this one historical listing from 2010. Well, that's interesting. So I know what this site was basically 8 years ago. So that's history. So remember, I'm going to do a line of history. So remember, I've got all these things to fill in my phase one report. We do provide a phase one report writing template, and we teach how to, how to use it. And it exactly matches all these things and keys you on all the things so you never miss anything on the site. And it also keys you on everything so you can build a case. So for every recognized environmental condition, you're trying to build a case. So right now, this is an RV dealer. But until we find out if they, do repair, how long they've been there, all those kinds of things, we can't really make that a recognized environmental condition yet because we don't know. It may be that it's a sales lot, nothing else, right? So we're making a note and thinking about it. So right away, ID number one, I'm going, well, not necessarily a big deal. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the 16th of a mile radius map. Now I can click over here on the left side, or I can click on map 4. Either way, it'll get me the 16th mile map. Why the 16th mile map? Because it's really clear. Excuse me, map 3. It's really clear. So right away, I'm looking at the 16th mile map, and I've got color coding on this. Green is good. It's usually a closed site. There's nothing of interest. It's an innocuous site. Yellow is the agency didn't provide enough details, either open, closed, concern, or not, to determine whether it should be a green or it should be a red. Red is bad to the bone. Red is always bad, always a problem, and always something you should be concerned from. So right away, I've got a red site that's exactly adjacent to me and across the street, right? Very interesting. There's a couple other things I can pick up from this 16th of a mile map. So right away, I'm going to write down, and you can see it, you have the address range. So that's 1098, right? And that's 1018. All the way down probably to 972. We know our address is 950. So we'll go all the way to 900. So we're going to go 900 to 1100. Actually, we're going to do 1099. And that's going to be our address range for when we look at directories for Erie Street, and Douglas Avenue. Very important. So right away you can see we just got a lot of information of it. We also got an adjacent site that may be a problem. We don't know what number 4 is, but we should probably look at it. We already know number 1 is we're an RV dealer. Big deal. Right now that doesn't mean a lot. I've noticed. I don't have enough information to know whether I have a wreck on my site or not because it's an RV dealer. So I'm going to go to map detail number 2. Now you can't click on our maps and go to the detail. It's very simple. It's just as quick as clicking on the map. Click on the left side here and you go to detail. So let's go to detail 2. So right away, detail 2, the first thing is we've got all facilities Illinois. That's probably just every facility that handles hazardous materials is listed. And this is green manufacturing. So now we know it's a manufacturing plant. But if you don't know what all facilities stand for, the real quick way to find out what all facilities is scroll all the way down on the left side and go record sources searched. And then look up all facilities. And here's all facilities. Now, that still doesn't tell me a whole lot. ERS supplemental governmental sources. So this is outside the ASTM requirement. It's additional data we give you just so you've got everything you could possibly have on the site. And you really want everything you can possibly know about this site. But if you didn't want all this historical and all facility stuff, you can select ASTM standards only and you won't get a lot of these supplemental things. So let's click here because the details are truncated off site. And there it is. The database contains Bureau of Land Regulated Facilities as reported by the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. There you go. So there it is. You got it. It's very easy to get the definition. These are all truncated off site, so our report doesn't get any longer than 200-300 pages, let's hope. And we do that with details too. And it really makes it quicker to get around. So let's go back to detail number 2. We now know what the all facilities database is. So basically, it's just telling us it's a company that is listed in Illinois by the Environmental Department. Big deal. Here's that more link. This is another truncation. Sometimes we'll get 50, 60 pages of detail, and it's usually the first half a page, 3/4 of a page that gives you the most information. And so the rest we truncate offsite, which then you can also print out and put in your report if you want, or you can just use the first 3/4 of a page that we provide. So ERP open. Well, they had a leaking underground open case. So let's look at this. And we can find more information. You also have this link. You can either click on the link if you had this report, or you can cut and paste it and go right to the documents and where we got the document. That saves you tons of time. It's fast, it's easy, it's quick. This thing was started in 1994. Last action was in 2013, and it was still open. Man, that's a big red flag. I don't even know what chemicals it was. I don't even care right now. That's a huge red flag. This site's adjacent. I don't know if this site's uphill, downhill, whatever. Let's see. The site is 2 feet higher than our site. And I just want you to note something. Remember, groundwater always flows, not always, but for the majority, first of all, flows downhill and always flows towards a body of water. I have a body of water here. So think about it. I want to see what 3 is because I'm going to really get the slope. So let's go to 3. That's 7 feet lower. So right of the way, I'm getting an idea. I go 2 feet, me, 7 feet down, 2 feet up. Wow. Everything's flowing this way probably. Pretty slick. Another way you can find that out, depending upon what order you want to do things in, you can go to the topo meta of the subject site. And right here, you can go ahead and see the contour lines and you can make out. So up here is 620, the next one's 600. So it's all flowing this way. And see this little thing right here? It's probably flowing right down here. So, but remember, we're going to review topos for this site. So we're going to get more detail. This just happens to be the newest topo. It's 2016 for Racine South. You know the topo quad because you got it on the summary. So let's go back to detail number 2. So right away, we know we've got an open case. We don't know if it's still open, but I probably would have had my, right now, I probably would have had my site assessor, when they went out and did the field inspection, going to the regulatory office that had the files for green manufacturing, and I'd go review those files because they're adjacent upstream to your site, very important. And that's why I said reviewing this data ahead of time can save you having to go back out in the field once you do review it. And keep in mind the ASTM standards say it's up to the environmental professional who's writing the report whether they think a file review of an adjacent site or the subject site is necessary. In this case, already I think it's probably necessary. You need to know that all this is closed. So here's the same listing, just different dates probably. This is just facilities reporting that they use hazardous materials. They're probably a small quantity generator. Here's a historical listing, historical finds. And again, you can look this up. They had a leaking underground storage tank in 1998. Machine shop, steel fabricators in 97. RCRA listing, which you all know what RCRA is, again, small quantity generator probably. And you can actually go to the website and look this up and get more details. Or go to the more details. They actually got their Lust site closed, so you really want to look in the file and make sure it's all up to date. But so they started in 91 and closed in 98, and it's still green manufacturing. So right away, I can look at more of this, but I already know there's the small quantity generator I was talking to you about, RCRA. They handle hazardous materials. You're downstream of them. They've had a leaking underground storage tank. They've had a spill that seems to be open. Boy, I want to see there's the spill. I want to see, I want to see their file. I want to make sure they haven't affected our site. So very important. They tell you who to contact, the coordinator in the Southeast region for file information. I would want to know that file information. I'd like to get that thing. The spill was in 1993, but I don't got where they've ever cleaned it up. 3 is just all facilities handling hazardous materials. They've been listed non-generator, so 3 is no biggie. 4 is a machinist, right directory company. They're publishers. Machinist, right directory company, publishers. 54, LC Machine Company. Huh. Not sure what they did, but that's to the north of us, just off of our property. So I'm going to make a little note and keep an eye on this site. Five is historic. Where's 5? Let's look real quick. 5's down here just off of our property too. So 3 and 4 I'm not too concerned about. We're going to keep an eye on 4. And we'll really look at it when we get into reviewing the fire insurance maps, city directories, and aerial photos, because those are going to tell us a lot more. So right away, I've picked up a lot of things. I picked up our sites, an RV dealer, but I haven't found it wreck yet. Our adjacent site is a big concern. So in your report writing template, I'm sure you have where you've got to address at least the, everything adjacent to your site, which would be all these sites, and make a comment whether they're a concern or not. $18.98. What's your question, Nick? Where'd you see $18.98? Did I say $18.98? Probably $19.98. Sorry. No, I probably said $19.98. I meant $19.98. If I said $18.98, it's a senior moment. I haven't quite often. Sorry about that. Good catch. Okay, so basically we've reviewed this. If in your report writing template or software you're using or our report writing template, we automatically download all the sites within a quarter mile so you can make a comment on whether they're a problem or not. And so now's the time to fill this out. But that's a quick and dirty interpretation of this RecCheck report and getting around the RecCheck report. It's really easy to get around the RecCheck report. Keep in mind, we just came out with a beta testing of an app for Android and iPhones where you can literally, once you download the app and you register, and it's for free right now, your field assessor right in the field can hit a button, and in a matter of minutes, and I mean really quick, they get all the top things, Lust, Superfund sites, all the top listings, not all the listings, but all the top listings, the subject site and adjacent site they're at. The app reads the lat long on your phone, sends it to us, we send it back, the report via email, you just open it, and guess what? Your assessor can see what to look for on your site if they have some listings and verify that it's an RV dealer, and check out that green manufacturing and peek over the fence and see what they do. And so it's a really handy tool to make sure when your field assessor's out in the field, they get everything. So you wouldn't even have to review these details with them because using the app gives them instantaneous information. So if you want the app, just let Grayson know, GraysonP@RecCheck.com, you want the app, and he'll tell you how to go ahead and get that app. He may even tell you right now. But that app just came out. It's handy. we keep making adjustments to it. So if at first you're using it, it's kind of okay, it kind of works super good. Sometimes it doesn't. It's going to get better because we're asking for your feedback. So make sure you give us your feedback on that app, and we'll make it great for everybody. But it's a free service. ERS always tries to make your job easier. So let's go back. Unless you've got some more questions on the RecCheck report, this is easy to get around real quickly. We do have the summary chart of all the listings that were ASTM listed, just like on the ASTM checklist. So right away you can look at it, see that everything checked, and on the list, if something's listed, you can go right to it by clicking on this button, going to the details. So it's really easy to get around. So this is another way to use this report. I like the 16th of a mile map and the actual detail. Some people like the summary tables. Some people actually put these summary tables right in their list. So the closest Superfund site is right there, Shepherd Plating. 7. So let's look and see where 7 is. 7's quite a ways away. So 7's way down here. We might actually be able to see part of that on the 16th of a mile. No, it is, but it's just off the 16th of a mile. It's right down here. So you can't really see it. So the point being is there's multiple ways to use our report to interpret it, get around it, and make it easy for you. And as you use it, you'll learn more and more. Each time you use it, you'll learn new things. The other thing we offer is if you ever have any questions on any of our reports, any of our sites, all you got to do is call. Let me know the report number, the page you got a question on, go look at it. I'll talk to you about it and help you out and help you interpret something if you need it, if I can. And that goes with anything. If there's a mistake, something's plotted wrong, needs to be moved, a map ID number needs to be moved, call us up. You can call the person who prepared the report. You can call me anytime, or we have customer service. You'll get the same person every time if you call them or ask for them. And we'll change it within an hour. You'll get a new report. So if there's ever any problems, let us know. We're into giving you the best customer service we can and making your job the easiest we can. So I've done the RecCheck report. I've got some ideas already of things I need to look at, which is an adjacent site. I got the address range when I do directories. The next thing I always do is I do aerial photos and topos. So that's what we're going to do next. Now, all of us know aerials only show us rooftop. In the old days, we used to use multiple aerials and stereoscopic glasses or things we looked through, and we could kind of see some 3D dimensional heights. Well, nowadays, nobody does it anymore for the most part. A couple of us old guys still do it once in a while when we go somewhere where they have that, which is usually the USGS or some good library, but or the USDA sometimes has good aerials and stereoscopic aerials, but not very often anymore. So you get a report like this. If you order a report from us, you get a report like this, and you're looking straight down on a building or vacant land. If lucky, you can see trees and you can see, dark patches, but can you really see staining? Well, maybe, but you can't really call it staining unless, you've got something else to back it up. Remember, anytime you make a rec, you've got to have a series of facts that add up to why you determined a rec or recognized environmental condition. So all our aerial photos come in a package like this, and it starts out with the newest year. I do have the correct address here. I'm going to go right away to the first thing. We tell you a little information in the beginning. But one of the most interesting things we do to make your job the easiest as it possibly is, we overlay a parcel map of your site. So we overlay the parcel map. The parcel map gives you all kinds of information, but it also makes sure you know your site. You're going to see there's multiple parcels on the site, but ours goes to this line up here. It doesn't exactly line up all the way down to here. And that's our current site. So that's pretty interesting. So very quickly you can find your site. You're not trying to line things up in a light box, an Adobe light box or whatever, and overlay, and they're crowding each other right away. I can review this real quick. I can zoom in on it. I'm already zoomed in on it, but I could zoom it all the way in some cases, to 400. Now, 400%, sometimes it's starting to get a little foggy, but I can tell you right now, my recreational vehicle place is a boat place, and it might even be a marina. This is pretty interesting. And there's my green manufacturing right over here, and probably this building, but I got some boat storage over here. So I'm learning all kinds of things about my site. So I'm going to mark down boat storage on site. Is it a marina? Is it sales and service? Because I want to know. Right now, this doesn't tell me. I'm just looking at the rooftop. But I do notice one thing. It looks like this is all concrete around it. I don't see any heavy staining. Downstream, I don't see a lot either. I see like more boat storage, that kind of thing. All the way around adjacent, I'm looking at in my aerial photo. I think this is vacant land, because I think my site ends right here. I think this is vacant land, and it happens to be parking for this building, which tells me I've got a little buffer. Also, I know groundwater flows towards the river, so nothing coming from here is going to bother me. But maybe here, this looks like trees, a little bit of parking staining in here, but it's not a big deal. I don't see anything else. Anyone see anything else in here that immediately adjacent that's a concern? I don't. Looks like residence. That looks like probably an small apartment building, but we'll find out. Okay, so there's my first aerial. I just verified what kind of recreational vehicle it is, right? I could also probably pick up some addresses, but let's get to a better aerial and see what we can find here. So here's a better aerial. Now there's that building to the northeast that was some sort of manufacturing. And we still don't know what that is, but we're probably going to pick up what that building was. And that's currently on our site now. We're going to pick up what that building was in the directories, maybe even in the fire insurance map. But so we have less boat storage. We have snow on the ground, so it's kind of hard to see much. And now on our south portion of land, we've got this new building. We didn't have that building before. Let's go back up. Oh, we did have that building. So that building right there is currently on our property, because we know it takes in at least, well, maybe not. We're going to have to check our parcel maps and make sure whether this building's on our property or not. So I'd make a note of that, because you want to make sure you've got your whole entire property. So we really need to find out what this is right here. And we're going to find that. So by making a note, you're going to look at adjacent to southeast section of property. I want to look at that when we come to the city directory. Okay, so I'm looking around in this one, and otherwise I don't see a lot of change. I see some storage of something down here. I don't know what it is. I don't see any buildings, anything. I got all the same buildings. Looking pretty good. So right away, I'm starting to get a picture of my site for my phase one. Remember, when I'm reviewing the aerial photos section in my report, I'm going to be filling out. Everyone does it a little different. We only used to write when we had concerns for the photo. If there were no concerns spotted in the photo, then we didn't list. We listed when we reviewed the photo, but didn't put a description. So we also have this building. We probably could have been something else prior. But this is our main building. This is a part of our site. We don't know what this is here. But so in this year, adjacent, everything's remained the same. What year is it? 2007. So remember, in aerial photos, we supply you every aerial photo we can get all the way back to sometimes 1920s, but mostly 1930s, and 5-year increments is close to. Sometimes we can't get you high quality photos, but we provide you with what we can get just so you at least get something, and in some cases they can show you enough. Now, so what's different about this photo? Right away, I'm looking at, there's a big building here. This big building wasn't here. What the heck is that big building? So adjacent to the east, just across the street, what is it? I'm going to find out what that is, either in city directories or in fire insurance maps, hopefully. So right away, that's different. Pretty much my site remained the same. That remained the same. Everything else remained about the same, but that building got added. So what year is it? 2002. I want to note that change. Now remember, it's 7 feet down. That's pretty far down. That's pretty good slopes. It's probably not an issue. So now we go from 2002 to 2000. Not a whole lot of change. Same thing. Nothing's different. But now we got some other kind of storage here. I don't know what this is. And it looks like this property right here isn't part of our boat property anymore. I don't know what that is. And the picture isn't high enough quality for me to really zoom in and make much out of that, even if I could. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. 2000. Now we're into 1995. Remember, if you have any questions or any comments on anything, go ahead and let me know. Now we've got 2 buildings down here. We still got that big building. Green manufacturing pretty much looks like it's taken over this whole thing. But we got a building here we didn't have before. And we've got some over here we didn't have before. So I'm going to make a note because I want to keep my eyes open for that. Douglas, Erie, the street names are still the same. All this is pretty much the same up here. That big building, I want to know what that big building is. Okay, I'm going to bounce down a little bit and let's go get a little older because we could take all day here. Let's go to the oldest aerial photo we have, 1937. Now, I'm going to make a note. In 1937 photo, the RV dealer isn't there. I want to see if I can get when it disappeared. 55, it isn't there. 71. It's still there. Hard to see, but it's still there. The building's there. But in 55, no. So 55, 37, RV gone. Boat's gone. So I'm getting history. I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to figure out what this site was. So it had some sort of storage here. I don't know what it was. That is pretty interesting. See that shape? I don't know what that is. And I also have kind of a shape going this way. I don't know what that is. I'm hoping to figure out what that is. I also have this here. What is that? Oh, and another thing, look across the street at Green Manufacturing. What the heck is that? It's looking like a depression, either a culvert or small little creek or something. But I'm going to keep my eyes onto that because that would be go on to my site. Sweet, Lonnie. I don't know how I picked this site. So did you order a pack? So now we're going to review Topos. We reviewed all the aerials. We've got a bunch of things to look for. We've been listing them down. Sweet. So I'd be interested to find out what recognized environmental concerns you came up with. So on Topos, most of the time we just put a red square around your site because they're not of good enough quality for us to put the parcel map in, for you to zoom in on. They're just topo maps or topo maps. So basically here, this topo map doesn't tell us a whole lot. It gives us the contour lines. It gives us that big building to the south. I'm still concerned about that big building and that this whole area just has buildings. So it doesn't really tell us anything. And this year's 1980. Let's go back to 1977. And guess what? Now it's starting to show us a little more. Not much, but more detail. We can see the contour lines a whole lot better. Which, remember, the RecCheck report gives you your elevation. So you can confirm your elevation if you want to in these things. Now we go to 1960. We're still not picking up a lot, are we? It's not telling us much other than that building still there. Adjacent building still there. Uh-oh. What year is this? 1941. This is when they actually took pictures of hand-drawn maps. Crazy, right? But what's right going through the center of our property? That's a creek coming from Green Manufacturing. That freaks me out. I mean, man, I'm going to write that down. Besides Green Manufacturing being higher in elevation and immediately adjacent, I've got a creek running right onto my property and through it from Green Manufacturing. That's a big concern for me. So let's go to the oldest one. We still see that creek, 1923. Oh, we got some really old ones, 1892. So really, the USGS map didn't tell us a whole lot. It gave us that there's a creek going through our property. That's really important. We did lose that building, and I'm not sure when we lost that building, but that'd be an interesting thing. So we lost that building between 1960, the adjacent building downstream, and 1941. So we should make a note of that. Okay, that's aerials and topos. I got to kind of move a little quicker. We only got about a half an hour, and I hate running long. So that's Ariel and Topos. If no one's got any questions, I'm going to move to the next thing I did. I always do city directories last. It's just the order I do things in. Because city directories, then I'm looking for a lot of these things I was talking about. So let's go ahead and do fire insurance maps. When fire insurance maps are available, and they're only available for maybe 10 or 15% of the sites that you're going to do phase ones on, they are valuable. There are different fire insurance maps other than Sanborn. Obviously, Sanborn's the most common. And obviously, you all know our 900-pound gorilla competitor owns Sanborn Fire Insurance map. But we do something unique on our fire insurance maps that make it really easy for you to get around and interpret. So let's go to the fire insurance map report. All our reports are pretty much standard. Our reports currently now say who prepared the report and give their phone number. So if you ever have a question on a report, you got the report preparer name, and you can call them directly. That's one of our new customer service things that we hope really speeds things up and helps you. So the first fire insurance map, and some are clearer than others, and that's nothing we can do about it. It just happens to be the way they were scanned in from the company or from the Library of Congress or somebody else. But we overlay your parcel map again, so you can find and know exactly where your site is. So that is cool. So right away, the first one, not a very good one. But right away, I can see some addresses. I could zoom in on this and see what 400 is going to give us. And it's not bad. So 400, there's our address, 950 Erie. But you can also pick up some of the other addresses. That's 1028, maybe 1029. It's kind of sweet. What year is this? Let's look and see what year. 69, I'm sorry. So in the 69, right away, we needed to know what that site was in the right northeast. We've got just off-site, a machine shop. You can see the parcel map overlaid here. It never overlays perfectly, but it's good enough so you can make sure you're on the right site quickly. So there we go, garage. Here we go, auto body repair and painting. Whoa, guys, what are you starting to think? Auto repair, body and painting. Volatile organic chemicals, solvents, paint thinners, you name it, I'm concerned right away. Spray booth. Wow, I'm really concerned. I'm already formulating a rec in my mind, and I'm going to make a note of that. And I'm going to make a note of the fire insurance map where I saw it. One of the other things I wanted to identify right away was I wanted to look at that green manufacturing. So there's manufacturing. I've got platings, stampings, and plating. I got an above ground storage tank, AS, right here. I don't know what's in it, but I got it. I've got all kinds of storage tanks up here. This is really interesting. Again, I'm going to pull the file on this. A lot of this I can't read, but I can always rotate this. I can zoom more in on it. I can do all kinds of things to find things. But this site is a big concern to me already. And remember, I got a creek that runs right through here and right through my property. So now, one of our other issues we wanted to identify, remember I got all my notes, is that big building. And what is it? Electroplating. Wow. It's still 40 or 50 years ago that electroplating was there, but it was I've got to decide whether that's a concern or not. It is downstream, downhill, but electroplating had a lot of chemicals and used a lot of volatile chemicals in the electroplating processing. It off gases as you're electroplating. So is there a chance for vapor intrusion onto my site from that electroplating? That's something you as an environmental professional have to determine. The other thing is, remember I saw those shadows of these lines going onto our site. Wow, these are old spur lines. See that? Railroad spur lines going onto our site. Now we saw those in the aerial photos a little bit. We can make them out, but not much. Okay, so now right away, we're starting to pick up detail. First of all, that little site that got added to the bottom part of our subject site, remember we kind of notched out right here? Right there was United Fuel and Supply Company. Boy, I'm going to make a note of that. What kind of fuel did they have? I got a feeling we're going to find out. Now, on our property, remember we had that building and weird storage over here and stuff? We've got a machine shop. What address is that? Looks like 925, 928, something like that. But that's on our subject property. We're going to have to look at that closer and see if we can pick up that address. But we've got a machine shop. How long has that machine shop been there? I don't know. And then we got a coal yard. What are kinds of things you're going to have problems with coal stored on a yard and it raining and going right through the cold and percolating into the ground? Might be a problem for your site, but you better know about it. Are there semi-volatiles or hydrocarbons that are going to be in the ground? Nick, you're absolutely correct. One of the first calls I'd make is I'd call the city if there is a city agency, and I'd call them, if not the county, and find out where that creek went. Did it go into a culvert? Did they just fill it up? Where did it go? But it doesn't really matter. If they put it in a culvert, lots of time, under every creek is gravels and sands and all kinds of things that built up over the years, and that can still be a conduit, even with a culvert on top of that, to your site. So really, without doing subsurface sampling, you're not going to know whether you got any contaminants from green manufacturing, in my opinion. So I'll tell you right now, I probably would have made it a recognized environmental condition. I've got enough reasons and facts, use of hazardous materials, spills, leaking underground storage tank, years there, the creek, all kinds of things upstream, that facts that all add up to that adjacent site to me is a wreck, and you better do some subsurface sampling. And groundwater is going to be really shallow here anyway, right? So anyway, so look at all the things we picked up. Now remember, we got down here, and this is a different building after this. So this is all residences, dwellings, furniture, store in the front, dwellings in the back. This is of no concern. But this spur line is interesting. They had 8 trucks, so they probably had a repair shop, but that's just off our property. Our property line ended right here, and you could verify that if you know the parcel numbers of your site, because we put the parcel numbers on there. And that's where those parcel maps really come in handy, that and addresses. So let's go to the next year. And I think the next year is a much better overlay. So you can see the parcel map overlaying really good. now we have a grocer. Really? If you review Sanborn maps on there are keys around. We can send you a Sanborn map key so you know what all these abbreviations are. But look at what our site is, Racine Fuel Company. And that spur line goes right on it. Racine Fuel Company. Really? Heat is steam. So they have heat in this building. Our main building for the RV isn't there. There's an office here at 950, so we're going to look and see what that is in the directories, right? But then over here we got 947. You need to write that address down, 947. We need to find out what that is. Let's see if our plating's there. Plating isn't there. What year is this thing? 1951. So the plating to the east is gone. We've got fishing, fish net. I don't care about any of that. That just doesn't mean anything. I've got all these addresses though. But now I've got this 922. And I really want to know what that is because it says beer storage. I guess I could have spilled beer. But look at this still onto our site. I've got that. Let's see what's across the street. So all these apartments, dwelling, I'm not sure. Anyone know what F is? Not sure what F is, but it may be, I'm not sure what F is. But let's go up to our green manufacturing. F is probably some sort of residential or something. So let's look. Factory building, right. Now we can read things a whole lot better. Again, we have a few tanks, above ground storage right there. Wood posts, curtains. Remember, I'm in 400%, so that's pretty good. Japan tanks. I think those are above ground dipping tanks for plating. Man, I'm just so concerned about this place being adjacent to mine. But look right here. What do we have here? I don't know. It's a nice picture. So we're learning things about our site. So right away, we did fuel, Racine Fuel Company. I don't know how long they are there. United Fuel Supply here. And to the south, we've got some supplier. And 915, we've got a dwelling. I don't think this is part of our site. It's close, but it's not. And then we still have these down here. So now these are all full. Storefronts with housing in the back, pretty typical. So let's jump around a little bit. We got to get moving. Let's go all the way down to 1908. Now this gets interesting. Our subject site is West Shore Lumber. Remember we saw that lumber storage? And these are kind of pole buildings, probably sheds, just to cover the lumber. We've got a dwelling still at 947, but it looks like it's part of the lumber yard. May not be. We still have the spur lines. We don't have the spur line onto our property except for on the southern portion here. We have a wood, Carroll Coal and Wood Yard. I'm guessing for wood stoves and that kind of stuff and heating. Harley Brothers Wholesale Produce. So they went to produce to selling beer. That's interesting. Dwelling. We got residences across the street. We got residences. We got, what's this? We got lumber across the street to the east. Remember, that's down here. What's the problem? What could be one of the potential problems with the lumber yard? What they do in the old days? I'm kind of giving you guys hints. Anyone got any idea? How about how did they treat posts, fence posts, that kind of stuff? Creosote, Grayson, right on. Creosote. They used to dig pits in the ground and throw all the post ends, the bottom of the post, into a pool of creosote and soak them. Creosote, arsenic, copper, heavy metal, PCP, all kinds of nasty. When they stopped doing that and stopped using creosote back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, when we finally figured out it was bad stuff, they just covered up these pits. And almost every lumber yard had one of them. And so that's on our site, or could potentially be on our site. So look at green manufacturing. For the most part, green manufacturing isn't there anymore. There's a little part up in the north here, but they really ended up growing pretty big over a period of time. So they're obviously very successful at what they did. Across the street, down on our southwestern tip, we got all dwellings. It's not a concern. So pretty cool. So let's go a little older. Let's go, that was 1908, 1884, 87. Let's go to our very oldest one. Let's zoom out a little bit because I'm zoomed in a little too much. So we got Bates Fish Company's Lumber Yard. Bates Fish and Company's Lumber Yard. That's strange. But anyway, our site's still a lumber yard. Across the street's a lumber yard. But look at that creek. You can see where it used to go through our property. Doesn't any longer. So this is in 1987. So whether they put in a culvert or whatever they put in 1987 to get rid of that creek, boy, what's the condition of it now? That's 120 odd years, 130 odd years ago, 131 years ago. That's crazy, right? What is this site? France and Sons Tannery. Holy cow. Tanneries use nasty chemicals to tan the hides. This is bad. And in the old days, everything was dumped down on the ground or in the creek or whatever when they were done using it. This is bad stuff right onto our site. I'm really building a case to do sampling on this subject site, both vapor sampling and soil groundwater sampling. Because if there's groundwater and you can sample it, that's the best information you can ever get about clearing a site. So this is an idea of how you interpret fire insurance maps, get information. We've got addresses. The parcel map, make sure real quickly I'm on the same site. Also give me addresses to make sure my addresses ranges are correct for the city directories and that kind of thing. So if there's no questions on fire insurance maps, I got about 10 minutes to talk about city directories and then I'm out of here. So anyone got any questions, go ahead and ask me. I'm going to go ahead and go to city directory. So let's do city directories. So we're just going to buzz through this really quick. City directories, we're going to be looking at the ones where we supply copies of the pages. With the copies of the pages, you not only get your subject site block, but you usually get a block or two on each side. We do, which a lot of companies don't do. Remember, when you've got a site, and I'm going to show you, and I ought to really draw a really nice one, but I do this every time. Let's say your site is where the X is. We not only do the adjacent site behind it. If you don't get the adjacent site behind it, then you don't get all sites. So if your directory company only does one street, you're not getting all the information you need to properly and accurately review your site. We give you, if your site's in the middle of a block, we give you 2 streets or blocks, and so you get all adjacent. And if you're on a corner, we do 3, so the cross street too, so you get all adjacent. And that's what we do. So let's go ahead. So we're looking, Erie Street, we're looking in the range of 900 to 1,099. So there's Erie Street. Oh, Erie Street crosses. Oh, that's kind of cool. We've got where Erie Street crosses on this listing. It's kind of neat. So we've done from 99, 900 through. 900 being south, almost 1,100 being north. So south, 930 is Yarn Arm Bar and Grill. So right below our site is a bar and grill. We saw the parking. It looks like a little bar and grill. Then Dodge intersects, and we got a Holloway. So really, that's the, and then we've got 950 Racine Riverside Marine Inc. So we just verified the Marine, but we really don't have any other listings, but we know the RV dealer was there in 2017 on Erie. Let's go ahead and look at Douglas Street real quick. Douglas Avenue from Racine. Okay, so this doesn't have a lot of listings. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It depends who returned the card or not. In this case, we've got 1,031 and then Prospect. So we've got a residence in the northwest corner, and that's it. Nothing more. That's the only listing. Now they get better. Let's zoom through here. The directory companies kind of did what they wanted to do. And we supplied directories. They sent it out postcards and then nobody returned them. They just didn't put anything there, and they put no return in some cases, depending upon the directory agency. So this is 1985. Let's do Erie Street. So we got Erie Street. So 930, we got the bar and grill again. Across the street, odd, because we're even, we got Wharf, the boat storage. We've got First Rate Auto Trimming. We got, on our side of the street, Racing Speed and Power. Remember, we had that shop. 940 Custom Car Care. 942 Racing Speed and Power. 949 across the street. We got an environmental company. How cool. We could have had them do some work. 950 is our subject site address, is vacant, and 956 is vacant. More or less, they didn't return the card or something. Who knows? But we're picking up valuable information. So now let's go to Douglas Avenue. 945 across the street is a parking lot. That's kind of where that boat storage was. And then we got green manufacturing. That's cool. Now we're starting to pick up green manufacturing. What year is this? 85. But now we want to zoom down to about 1955-ish, because that's where we started having some changes in our, right here, our placed in show. Now remember, ERS provides you with city directories in 5-year increments as far back as we can get them. And so here we got Erie. 930 is that United Supply, remember, to our south. Remember when it came on? 931 and 35 are across the street. So that's like, actually was on both sides of the street. And then 1018, we got LNC Machine Shop. That's interesting because that pretty much, that could be that northeast side on our property. Let's go to Douglas and see what Douglas tells us. Douglas. So it's right here. Green manufacturing. Before that, vacant Paper Doll Tavern. 926 to 930. Charlie Sam's Tavern. That's interesting. So there was actually 2 taverns in that one little building, in that one little parking place at one time in our southeast corner, which has really never been our property. Our property went around it according to the parcel map. We've got at 938, which is on our site, it looks like a residence. Whenever they just have a person's name, it's usually a resident. And then we've got, and that's kind of, well, wait a sec. I'm looking at this the wrong way. 926, 30, and 24, these taverns were across the street, across Douglas Street. Kind of in line with that, and I should have wrote this down, but in line with that metal fabrication across the street from that, where the residences were. So there was a tavern. We don't care about that. I guess alcohol contamination in the ground. And then green manufacturing. So that's all good stuff. And then residences. So I don't see a lot there. Let's go older. But we're learning about our site. So 1939. Erie. So really, 931, we've got United Fuel. Now we've got the lumber company on our site, West Shore Lumber, all good stuff. We got woodworking at 1018, that's kind of that corner. And then we have residences, so I'm not concerned there. So now we're verifying all our data. And that's important because remember, when we're building a case for recognized environmental concerns, you've got to verify all this stuff. So now, Douglas Avenue, evens across the street, odds on our side. These are all even. They look like they're all residences and a store. We got Harry's Coffee House down further. I don't know if cooking coffee beans is anything. And green manufacturing again. Okay, so now let's go back into the 1800s. Let's do 1906. So these are pretty quick. When you get in a rhythm of checking these and you have your addresses written down beside you and you know what you're looking for, you can move pretty quick. So here's Erie. 31's across the street, 41's across the street, 14's on our side, but to the south. There's really nothing showing up on our side. Remember, we're even on Erie. On Douglas, we're odd. And across the street's even, and it's only shown across the street, and it's all residences. Remember when it became all residences, except for just a little portion up there became green. So there's, oh, I'm looking at Dowd. I'm sorry. Let's look here. But it's still all even except for some residences. And there really isn't much here. Let's see if, oh, 1950. No, that's across the street. There's a blacksmith. And we saw where that tannery was. That's about where the blacksmith is too. So remember, you got a visual picture of the site. You might always want to keep the map in front of you too. So let's go down to the oldest one we have. We don't go to 1800s, but we go to 1900. Let's look at Erie. And so here's Erie. We got West Shore Lumber across the street. We got Racine Pole and Spring Company. I don't know if that is. J.C. Carroll office. And I think they're shippers. I don't know. But we don't have much. So there really isn't much on Erie in 1900. What's in Douglas? In Douglas, we don't even have a listing. You can see the numbers start way higher. They didn't even bother at the street because it was either all residential or all vacant. They didn't even care. So we have absolutely nothing. So there you go. So there's how to interpret these things, what to look for. There's so much more. Each and every different site has different listings and stuff, but this is just one thing to keep an eye. Remember, you're building a case to present facts to support your recognized environmental conditions or good things, why your site isn't a concern, because it's always been residential before this and still is residential. So you're always using all your facts and all your research, and it legally protects you. The more you investigate, the more you document, the more you stay out of problem. In 28 years of phase one, doing phase one Inc., doing phase one environmental site assessment, they never got sued once. Never had to use their insurance for any phase one ever. That's incredible. Now, sure, in tens of thousands of phase ones, we probably made a mistake or two there. You know, you can't control everybody and everything in every instance. But the better you are, the better you document things, you protect both you and your client. So does anyone have any questions? If there's no questions, we really appreciate you attending. We give all kinds of webinars on how to write reports, how to streamline them, how to do your work quicker, faster, easier. I do try to change it up. The next time I do this course, I'll have a different set of fire insurance maps and stuff to make sure Lonnie doesn't get the same thing and nobody else gets the same thing. If you have, for your company, if you'd like us to teach everybody how to prepare and do a site walk or write a phase one environmental site assessment using our forms and our standards and our checklist and our report writing template, which is free to everybody who uses our RecCheck report. We would love to give a webinar just for your company, and we can, you know, shape it towards your company, that kind of thing. Just let us know. Again, if you ever have any questions, concerns, you're reading someone else's conclusions in their report or reviewing something for a client, and you know, you just want to double check what you're thinking, or you want someone else, another set of eyes on it, send it over to me. Give me a call. I'd be glad to look at it. It won't cost you a dime. So if there aren't any questions, we really appreciate you attending these webinars. And those of you who are clients, we really, really appreciate having you as clients. And if you ever have any questions on how we can make things better, our reports better, anything to add, let us know. You ever find a database we don't have, let us know. We'll add it. We think we have the most comprehensive data set, but we're always finding new databases. So let us know. Thank you very much for attending. Sweet. Lonnie, sweet. Thank you all. We appreciate you attending, and everybody have a good afternoon and a good day. And a great Labor Day weekend. Thank goodness. Yeah.